Welcome to Maths with EJD. In this video, I'll be talking about prisoner's dilemma and social dilemmas. Now, I've made mention of prisoner's dilemma a couple of times because it's one of the most common games we can come across. This is the fifth video in the series on game theory. So again, some introduction on prisoner's dilemma will be very important. So let's go from there. Introduction to prisoner's dilemma. Of course, in previous series, you've come across this, right? But then let's say introduction to the prisoner's dilemma. So again, the prisoner's dilemma is a foundational concept in game theory, describing describing a situation where two individuals must independently choose to either cooperate or defect. Okay. So, and these are the scenarios. Mutual cooperation yields moderate rewards for both. Mutual defection, more like mutual betrayal, results in a low payoff, in a low payoff for both. And the third scenario is that one-sided cooperation, of course, that will mean one-sided defection. One-sided cooperation benefits the defector. One-sided cooperation benefits the defector while punishing the cooperator. The cooperator. Okay. All right. So here we see that the dilemma illustrates the tension between self-interest and collective benefit. Okay. Now, can we look at it in an iterative manner? Imagine from the one-shot dilemma, where one person just takes one action and that's the end. So from one-shot dilemma to iteration. So we are considering some kind of iterative prisoner's dilemma. That means, it's a game that continues. It doesn't just stop. It can go on and on. So while the classic prisoner's dilemma, while the classic prisoner's dilemma is played once, the iterated, okay, let me just write this in all caps. The iterated prisoner's dilemma, the iterated prisoner's dilemma, or you can call that IPD, Iterated Prisoner's Dilemma, actually repeats the game multiple times, allowing players to adjust strategies based on prior interactions. Okay. This iterative structure adds new dimensions. For instance, because there's a now iteration, memory is now involved. Okay. Memory is involved here because players remember past outcomes. So there's memory in iterated prisoner's dilemma. Then again, we have strategy adaptation. Strategy adaptation. So here you see that in one round influences actions in one round influence the opponent's behavior in the next. Then we also have long-term dynamics, long-term dynamics. So see that cooperation can emerge if players consider future payoffs. Okay. Now, let's see the mathematical foundations of the IPD payoff matrix. Mathematical foundations of the iterated prisoner's dilemma payoff matrix. All right. For simplicity, let's define the payoffs as, payoffs in this case can be defined in different ways. If you remember in the previous video, we looked at prison terms as the payoffs, but here the approach is a bit different. So you can define it as you like. So for simplicity, let's define the payoffs as follows. We have R equals 3. That means reward for mutual cooperation. So if two of them cooperate, they get 3 points each. Reward for mutual cooperation. In this case, let's have it this way. Then another thing is T equals 5. T is temptation to defect. So if you defect, you are tempted that you're going to get 5 points. Temptation to defect. I mean, the reward, the payoff can be in whatever terms. It can be in terms of money or time or whatever, prison sentence, whatever. Uh, you know, but it's something positive. So P equals 1 will be punishment for mutual defection. Punishment for mutual defection. That means if both of you mutually betray one another, then you get 1 point. Then there's S equals 0, which is actually soccer's payoff, soccer's payoff for unilateral cooperation. So that means if one person, betrays, if just one person betrays the other person, then the person gets this reward. It's like an undue advantage, so to speak. Okay. Um, this is what this should have been here. Um, okay. Not the way I've put it now. So we're talking about the mathematical foundation for the iterated prisoner's dilemma. So this is on its own. Then what we have here now is the payoff matrix. That's like setting up the whole thing. So this is the payoff matrix. This is how the payoff matrix looks like. So next, so we have the payoffs, right? Um, Next, we talk about the strategies. So the strategies. So for the strategies now, we have the first strategy is tit for tat. That means whatever the other player does, this player is going to do it. So tit for tat is the strategy adopted by player A. Tit for tat. So that is the strategy adopted by player A. What that simply means is that player A starts by cooperating. Player A starts by cooperating and mirrors the opponent's last move. The opponent's last move. So it means that for player A, right, the first game, the player A is going to cooperate. But as from the second game, player A is just going to do whatever player B does. That's where the T for that thing comes in. So maybe the first time the player A cooperates and then player B defects. So then next time player A defects, and then it goes on like that. So for player B, the strategy adopted by player B is alternating. So you can define your own game in a different way. It all depends on your outcome. So player B adopts alternating. That means if player B defects the first time, so second time player B is going to cooperate, and then next defect, so it's C D like that, like that. That's the idea of alternating. So player B actually alternates. Player B alternates predictably, predictably between cooperation and defection. So you have that alternating thing going on for player B. So these are their strategies. Now, let's look at the iteration process in this case. Iteration process. Now, let's simulate. We simulate 5 rounds. 5 rounds of interaction between these strategies. Okay. The first, we have player A's move. Player A's move. So here, player A cooperates in the first round. Then player A goes on to mimic. It mimics player B's last move in subsequent rounds. Okay. Then we talk about player B's move. Player B's move. So for player B's move, right? Player B just alternates. Player B alternates between cooperation and defection. So that's the scenario, that's the basis for the whole game. So let's go ahead and simulate the results and see what happens here. So simulation results. So the following table summarizes the results of the 5 rounds. Okay, so we have round and we have player A, player A doing tit for tat. Then we have player B alternating. Player B is alternating. Then we have payoff for A, payoff A. We have payoff for B. And we have cumulative for A. And then we have cumulative for B. Okay. So round 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So that's how we want to simulate this whole thing. So we have round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, and round 5. So for player A, right? Player A starts by cooperating, but then player B is wicked, so to speak, and defects. So in that case, when player A cooperates, so for cooperation, remember, so if there's one-sided cooperation, so the sucker gets so the person who cooperates gets 0, and the defector actually gets 5 points, right? So uh let's do it this way. So when player A cooperates, the payoff for player A is 0, you know, because because player B actually defects. So player B defects and player B gets 5 points. So because this is one-sided, and then now going forward, player A now does the same thing player B does. So player A now defects and player B cooperates. So because player B's strategy is alternating, so defect now, cooperate later. So if this happens, so the defector also gets 5 points and the cooperator gets 0. Okay. Then of course we can just run it down like that. This is CD, because this guy is going to keep alternating. So this is just be CDC, DC, because this person too is DCD, CD. Okay. Now, okay, let me be consistent. So because DCD, CD, so because A cooperated the first time and B defected, so A will defect. So C will cooperate because C is alternating. C will defect. So it's like this is how the game is going, right? So this way, like that. So A cooperates the first time, D defects. So because D defected, tit for tat, player A will defect now. So then C is alternating. So it's defected the first time, now it will cooperate. Because it's cooperated now, whatever player B does, player A is going to return the favor. So at the end of the day, we just have that tit for tat thing going on like that. So because of that, we're going to have 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, while this one is going to be 5, 0, 5, 0, 5. Okay. And as a result of that, we can get the cumulative results. For A, the cumulative, the first time it's 0, the second time it's 5. So, this is 0, then 0 plus 5, we have 5. 5 plus 0 again is 5. 5 plus 5, now 10. 5 plus 0 is still 10. So, at the end of the day, the payoff, cumulative payoff for player A is 10. Then for player B, we have, of course, this is 5 to start with. Then 5 plus 0, that will be 5 still. Then 5 plus 5, that will be 10. 10 plus 0, that will be 10 still. 10 plus 5, that's 15. So at the end of the day, the cumulative results for player A is 10. And the cumulative player for player A is 10. And the cumulative player for player B is 15. So in that case, now we can report the final solution, the final result. So total scores. So total scores now. Player A, that's prisoner A, with tit for tat strategy. The tit for tat strategy gets 10 points, and player B with alternating strategy gets 15 points. So you see that the winner ends up being player B. Player B gets more points. So it means alternating is the dominant strategy in this case. So can we look at some key insights into this situation? So key insights now. Key insights. So we see that behavior of tit for tat. So here we see that this person cooperates initially, fostering goodwill. But what happens? Then later it retaliates. It retaliates immediately when defected against, when betrayed, so to speak, when defected against, then that discourages exploitation. Discouraging exploitation. Then after that, it now rewards cooperation, rewards cooperation by resuming mutual cooperation, by resuming mutual cooperation. All right. So let's look at exploitation by alternating strategy. Exploitation, that's number 2 now. Key behaviors. Okay, we can name this 1, then 2. So we are looking at key insights into what has happened in that game we simulated. So we see exploitation by alternating strategy. Okay, so here, what do we have? You see that player B exploits player A's initial cooperation by defecting in odd rounds. So first round it defects, third round it defects, fifth round it defects. Then this strategy So this strategy leads to exploitation. This strategy yields higher short-term short-term gains, but risks future retaliation. Future retaliation in longer iterations. Then we have the third insight we get from here. The third insight is about cooperation versus competition. Cooperation versus competition. So here we see that in short runs, competitive strategies like player B's competitive strategies like player B's alternating approach can outperform cooperative strategies. Okay. Then in longer runs, tit for tat, tit for tat typically stabilizes cooperation. Typically stabilizes cooperation as defection becomes less rewarding. As defection becomes less rewarding. And you see, this is what we see playing out among the so-called world superpowers, right? Because they know that they equally have power to deal with themselves. So everybody is kept in check. Okay. So let's look at some broader applications of what we have seen here. Broader applications. So we see this happening in evolutionary dynamics. So we see that iterated games explain the evolution of cooperation. The evolution of cooperation in nature, e.g., reciprocal altruism, reciprocal altruism in animals. See that happening in biology a lot. Then we have two. Okay, not two yet. I mean, still under the first point, still under evolutionary dynamics. We see that tit for tat mirrors biological strategies where organisms cooperate but punish defectors. So in most cases, right, if there is no tit for tat, the defector will always take advantage of the cooperator. So we can have another point. We have another broad application in human behavior and trust. Human behavior and trust. So here in business, consistent cooperation can build trust, while retaliation prevents exploitation. Then we see that negotiations often involve reciprocal actions similar to akin to tit for tat. Okay. And then we also have that kind of thing in artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. So algorithms, algorithms in competitive environments, e.g., where we have things like trading bots, use iterated prisoner's dilemma inspired strategies to balance cooperation and competition. Okay. All right. So we can come to the conclusion of this now. It's been such an interesting one. So conclusion, the iterated prisoner's dilemma showcases the delicate balance between trust, cooperation, and self-interest. Okay. It's mathematical iterations. It's mathematical iterations reveal how strategies like tit for tat encourage long-term cooperation while safeguarding against exploitation. So understanding these dynamics provides valuable insights into human behavior, societal systems, and even the natural world, making the iterated prisoner's dilemma a cornerstone of strategic decision making in complex, repeated interaction. So this has been such an insightful experience. And of course, you have more coming. In the next video, I think I'll be talking about Nash equilibrium, which is really central to the whole idea of game theory. So if you have not subscribed to this channel, you want to do that right now because you don't want to miss what is coming. You just want to hit the notification bell so you can get alerted when a new video is released. Comment, let me know if you want me to teach a topic or solve a problem. Then like and share so that more people can have access to this great learning. Till I come your way again, keep playing the game of life with wisdom. Bye.